It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're looking at the strongest and leading companies on the ASX that have the best quarterly momentum. We also look at the companies that have had the strongest improvement in their momentum over the last week. They're on the launch pad. Together, we're reviewing the charts to find the trading opportunities. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris. I'm good actually.
We've been through this list. We've been sort of unpacking and twisting and tweaking and trying to find better ways to surface companies. So as the market's running through, is there anything coming to your mind as you're trading the markets this week?
Yeah, look, I kind of quote of the week for me. Sort of, I tend to listen to a few trading podcasts, but this one hit me between the eyes. I thought, there is no shame in being wrong. The only shame is staying wrong. I thought that's up there. That's there. That's a ball terror, as some might say in the broking world. So, but that's perfection, personified in trading, really. So, we're not going to get them all right. History says we're going to have plenty mistakes. It's obviously, we want to lose small, win big, but let's say there's nothing wrong with making mistakes, nothing wrong with being wrong. But the shame is actually in staying wrong and not doing anything about it once we've got ourselves, in a wrong position. That's the lesson of trading. If we can overcome that, if we can accept the shame of being wrong, and then that's good. That's it's all about ego here. So get rid of that ego. We're going to be 60 to 65%, or maybe 55 to 60% of our trades are going to be wrong. But it's the winners that the 35 to sort of 45% winners there that make all the money here. But we can't stay wrong. That's the key. If you get it wrong, you can't stay in that losing position there. That's the biggest shame there. So that was the biggest take. I thought it was a cracking quote, and I thought I'd start there. In terms of the list there, got a bit going on the list. There's some big movers on that momentum list there. Some of them have really run pretty hot there. Number 3 was probably the first interesting one to me. Just the other two are pretty sky high, and there's lots of volatility in those as well. So I thought the 40X is interesting just because it's had a pretty big move on volume, and it has started to cool now, Chris. But if we look, this is the first cool-off day, and it's cooled off for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And what's happened to volume here? Not too much.
Yeah.
It's really so there's not, up. So some of the others on the list are sort of a bit hot. They've probably run a bit harder there. They're starting to show a little bit of volume on the pullback. This is not here so far. So so I mean, this with that little high type flag. Oftentimes we're looking for that little tight consolidation, have a breather there, no volume there. Some good early signs here in the 40X here that there's not too much participation on the sell side there. So definitely one to be watching really closely, considering the scale of that move and the volume that went in there. So should be that one should be on our list here, watching it pretty closely. I thought Impedimed was pretty interesting as well. Did think had a bit of a pop, consolidated back, pretty light volume, and then we're seeing okay volume here on the second rise, but it's just pretty steady here. So as we're talking here, it's actually going up here. So I just thought that looked interesting as well. Hard to trade the smaller ones, but technically it looked pretty good. Silk Laser obviously was on our list as well. I've got to confess, Chris, I actually traded this one, but it's a difficult stock. Sometimes these these lists there can produce sort of stocks that are hard to trade. I noticed that Silk Laser was just very hard to get set there. So I did sort of see this, nice jump out of the blocks, have that really consolidation there, not much volume sort of through there. Once it sort of started to turn up here, I thought this was sort of worth sort of following there. So I did sort of follow a little bit there. It was very hard to get any sort of stock in this. And it did sort of move up here. I did start to sort of churn some out a little bit here, but I can tell you, it took me the 3 or 4 days to sell my holding into this little chop here. and the whole thing has gone up higher, and then bang, it's got taken over. So look, not to say that probably could have held on here, but was sometimes when you're in stocks that are not very liquid, it makes you more tentative to not hang around too long. So, but yeah, let's say sometimes we're presenting some interesting stocks there. It's just hard for everyone to sort of get involved in here. I mean, there's no way I could buy any of these for clients here. It'd be hard to sort of trade any sort of size here, get any position there, and very liquid there. Sometimes a bit of offer. It's only got 2 or 3 sort of lines in there. So, so there's no way Wesfarmers would have been able to scale a position there. They've just had to take it out clean. So, but yeah, look, it's interesting one there. The next stock I thought was probably the most interesting on the list there. Lindian Resources LIN. So again, we've got our got a perfect VCP pattern here, sort of tightening up here. So first correction, second correction. Look at this third little, and look at that there, just no volume there. So what we want to see is tight there. We saw a bit of a volume spike in here. We saw some volume coming here as well. So that's good signs. And then once we sort of closed above that, the stock's really gone on here now. So volume's still pretty robust here. So looking quite good there. Maybe a bit late in terms of where you put your risk reward here, but if I was long this one, I'd be sort of staying long there. But thought that looked pretty good. APC did catch the eye. Just although it's pretty small, there's actually a little bit of volume in there, but probably too hard for me to trade there. I'm not sure if it's one that I would trade there just because of the size there. IBR sort of had a nice little pop here. This Investigator Resources, some good volume through there, and just starting to cool off here now. But again, like the first one there, it's sort of we want to see if these things sort of pop up here in strong volume. We want to see a bit of a pullback, consolidation there. But if we see no volume come in, that's the ideal. So this can sort of drift off here, use up a little bit of time here, no selling coming in. Then it's potential for another leg up here. So that IVR does look pretty interesting. TLX is probably the second most interesting stock on the list there. Look at that. That's another beautiful VCP, Chris, as well. So yeah. So I mean, obviously got corrections in here, but it tightened right up in here. So we got this sort of small correction there, pull back, tighten up in there, got a consolidation there. For me, basically, I think we were talking about this earlier. So 5th of April, sort of like your pivot day does take out your little, first little lower high here, closes at a new high, and there was a little bit of volume on that day. If you look at the volume previous to that, that was a good signs there. Obviously, kind of a bit of a leading theme as well. So and then even closing above the high as well. Up here as well would have been another good confirmation there. So, we're following our rules there. For me personally, buy on the pivot, maybe buy on the second break as well. We might have been able to scale into this, and then, look at this move here. It's just really, really been aggressive. So, you're talking about going from $7 to $10. That's a pretty good percentage move in a short period of time. So, as traders there, that's why we're looking for this pattern here. Looking for this sort of coil and this sort of consolidation. That's fast moves come out of those sort of patterns there. So a bit of a cracking move there. Wish I could say I was on that one. I did see the breakout of probably the breakout of the high. I did sort of see there that I noticed on the Coppo's report was talking about some big lines of volume getting done on that day there. That was when the stock went to a new high, so it's probably around 770. But I didn't sort of see that until after that, unfortunately. XRF, look at this, Chris. This is again another little VCP in here, a little bit of a tight consolidation there. I'd love to see this. We've been talking about you and I are working on a little bit of a scan at the moment. Really looking for these moving averages to tighten up. So like the 10, 20, and the 50. And look at that there. That's a perfect there. So they've all basically converged, and then bang, pop here. So again, nice convergence in there of all those moving averages, and then a pop there. So there's a bit more homework for you and I to do here on this, but I'm excited by actually what I'm seeing on some of these stocks here. And yeah, this one here, look at that. I mean, that's big volume too. Look, that's monstrous volume. So this could be, that's not ending type of volume. That's almost like starting type of volume. So yeah, the next breather here, we should be looking at seriously, because that's not, like when you see the volume coming earlier like that, that's not exhaustive. That's sort of impulsive, sort of like third wave sort of stuff here. So this looks pretty good here. We'll probably have a bit of a breather here at some point, but gee, this is just one that must be on our list there. Still looking pretty strong there. What have we got there? MEI. Thought this one's pretty interesting there. Just again, possibly could be setting up here, Chris, for a VCP, or have a bit of a consolidation there. So we've had a pretty strong run on sideways there, sort of stuck in a bit of a consolidation phase. Like the fact that we're seeing, we saw a bit of a volume day there, sort of, obviously some good volume through this move here. Apart from the first few days, pretty light volume through here. The only day here was maybe exhaust of the low here, maybe exhaust of the low. A little bit of volume through here, not fantastic. Bit more volume here, but that's okay. Bit of volume here. This starts to sort of dry up here, consolidate under the high there. Definitely be one to watch there. Meteoric Resources, MI6. Interesting there, just because we had sort of pretty decent volume. It's a pretty choppy stock, so that's probably the negative for me, is that this is a volatile up and down type of stock here. But definitely a bit of volume there recently. Tightening up under the high here possibly as well, but okay without being not the best on the list there. And CXC again, hard one here. We've sort of popped up out of the range. It's a little bit of a volatile stock there. You can just sort of see this thing's up and down, up and down. The constructive thing here is that this stock has been just building high, low, high, low, high, low. So every time it sort of has a breather, has a pause there, it's popping it in. That's attracting some more volume here now as well. So volume here, volume on the
seems like the volume spikes here as well are on the up days where it gaps up.
Yeah,
not heavy on the down.
Yeah, so that's sort of still pretty constructive here. So so that's Copper Mountain. Obviously, everyone's copper's very talked about at the moment. I saw BHP's result out today. I think the copper production was one of the shining lights in there. I think there's a few less shiny lights in the BHP result. But yeah, copper's there. So yeah, everyone's talking about this. Sometimes you worry about everyone talking about the sector to be watching for, but it does look to be the case. They're kind of constructive there, but as this chart's showing here, you can't be sort of chasing this one. You want to wait for the consolidations there. That's our quarterly list. So some pretty interesting stocks there on that on a quarterly momentum there. On our daily list there, I think RTR was number one.
The weekly launchpad.
The weekly launchpad. Yep. Sorry. The one that did catch my eye was Task Group TSX. Just because it's sort of again, we've had an impulsive move, some good volume through there, Chris. Pulled back, dried up, good volume again on this, then kind of pulled back here, really dried up in volume again, and then bang, we've had a bit of a move here, and there was a bit of a upgrade in the profit guidance yesterday. So stocks had a bit of a jump and some good volume there. So it looks pretty good there. If we zoom out a little bit, obviously this is had a bit of it's a new sort of company there. It's only been around for less than 2 years there. So those early jitters there, sometimes they get ramped up. The capital markets, IPOs get done at a high price. They tend to fade, and then they might build from there. So this is pretty interesting here, just sort of starting to build here. I had a quick look at this company, Chris. 127 mil market cap. Just announced yesterday they'll do 65 mil in revenue this year there. So it's only trading on 2 times revenue. it's in that sort of POS sort of, front of, what,
Point of sale.
yeah, point of sale sort of display stuff there. So I thought, okay, interesting. So I had a quick look in the, look on the register, see, so about 46% held by insiders. So which I was like, okay, it's a lot of skin in the game. That's what I like to see. There's a little company called McDonald's Corporation on the on the register as well. So they've holding around just under 6% of the stock here, and yeah, needless to say, obviously task there is sort of they look after me. So basically do all the all the point of sale there for McDonald's. Got quite a few decent clients there, sort of Starbucks, Cross Pizza Retail Food Group. Look after a lot of the stadiums, so sort of a bit of a hospitality sort of thing. So interesting company, and I like the fact that it's really one of those companies that sort of started hot. I think a lot of the good companies, they start a bit hot, all the news dries up, and then that price sort of tends to fade, and then they sort of start building when the start results come out here. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on. This task, pretty interesting segment. Company's growing pretty quickly here. I think it's sort of gone from around 15-20 mil to up to around 65 mil in only about 2 years. So that revenue is growing pretty quickly. About 28 mil in cash, so not too much debt here. So normally these little ones here, they're usually bleeding money, having to go and raise money constantly. So that's a bit of a plus there. But yeah, I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on there. Just thought, well, that's potential little VCP sort of setting up in there. And then if it were to break through the top end here, close above say 40 cents there, we'd definitely keep an eye on that. It's a bit like silk. It's probably trade by appointment. That's probably the greatest risk there. It's just not that liquid. So that's the fact that almost half the shares are sort of held by insiders, so they're probably not trading in there. So, and then some of the other shareholders are, you got McDonald's and a few other bigger groups on there as well. So it's just make it hard to trade. That's basically. But as we know, some of the biggest movers are stocks that are held largely by insiders and hard to get inside them. Next one I thought was LPI, another lithium. Yeah, it's had a bit of a move. It's probably a little small for me, but the volume's okay without being fantastic. One that did surprise me on the list here was Pointsbet. Just had a bit of a rally in here, some okay volume. Still in a pretty massive downtrend, Pointsbet. So we really need to sort of break a swing high before we sort of start to get involved here. But definitely, this is a bit more volume. I mean, this looked a bit exhaustive, this volume. And this rally actually has had a bit of volume in it. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. So if we see this sort of coil up here, maybe congest a little bit, start to build here, where might be possible change in character there, but we're just that just sort of for me went on my watch list just to sort of keep an eye on it. CAE is a bit small. What's that? Cannindah Resources, EGR. Again, another one a bit small. Some okay volumes going through there. Bit of a spike in volume there. That was, but again, pretty small. What else was there? I think MEI. I was talking about that already. I thought that looked interesting. MFD. Again, another little spike in volume. Bit hard to trade. So this is Mayfield Childcr actually, which is interesting to see a childcare operator in here. But it's had some decent pops, this stock. Tends to sort of trade back and forth here. What was on there? PH2. So it's just a few small ones on the list there. That's got a bit of volume there. And CD2 as well. That's had a bit of a pop there, but yeah, it's private equity group there, so it's pretty hard to trade that one. I'm not sure if that would be I'd be going there. VHM was sort of one that just interesting here. I just noticed that, as we talk about IPOs, Chris, like a lot of I know some people, like to look at this IPO segment, and I've read a few, in the US there, like a lot of the traders there, they'll see these things come on hot, and then they'll sort of fade, and then they're looking for it to basically break to to take out a swing high before they even look at these things. So if you were trading that sort of IPO sort of strategy, that will be that'll be the first time you look at it there. So that's what we're talking about. So there's something like the Pointsbet is an interesting sort of stock there, entering segment, but it's just been in a downtrend, hasn't actually broken a swing high yet. So we shouldn't be jumping in early until we sort of see at least sort of some positive movement there. So this is the earliest that I would venture into any stock here is actually looking at it's at least taking out a swing high there, some sort of consolidation and breaking above a little B wave or something like that. So if you were going to trade IPOs, this is a popular strategy that I've seen before, is they just wait for the first swing high to be breaking and go with those. CXO, I did see this actually. I was looking at PLS at the same time there, and just noticed this had a nice little pop there. The only negative there was it did sort of pop there and have that high volume, which is a little bit kind of exhaustive. I prefer to sort of see that big volume come through in here. But yeah, just got to watch this here now. Sort of it's looking okay, but yeah, I've still suspicious of the mining sector, but I think the PLS and the CXO probably more interesting there. I think you're sort of seeing, I think these BHPs and Rios are pretty messy here, pretty volatile. And I'm starting to see consecutive lower highs there, so just that's got it's got me a bit nervous about that whole sector there. So I'd just be sort of suspicious of that. That's about it. Yeah, it all looks interesting out there. Yeah, still getting a few signals there. Yeah.
That's it.
Yes, yeah.
No, it's a good breakdown of the charts and the opportunity, and you've separated it well with the leading momentum companies, but then the opportunities in the launchpad, the ones that have had the weekly change. So are you seeing anything that's standing out thematic-wise, or any other overarching themes in the market that are coming out to you in the charts?
Oh, look, it's still pretty tricky. So, yeah, you sort of, I don't know. I was looking at, my positions today. I've sort of got about probably 80% invested at the moment. So I've got some positions on there, and they're all sort of moving back and forth. They're not really, these positions sort of not going too far. But I did have one of my positions here last week, obviously corporate travel, managed to sort of scale up there, get a pretty big win. And I was just looking today, how much risk have I got on the table? So out of my 80%, where my stops are. And the risk that I've got on the table is about the same amount of risk or same amount of money I made on that trade, in total. So I thought, oh, that's sort of, here's like, 6 or 7 positions I've got on. And the total risk is equivalent to one big win. That's really the essence of trading. When I was sort of thinking about it, because I like to make sure I can see my risk where it is and what I've got on, and I'm comfortable, because market's at a bit of our market sort of moved to a sort of I guess the same point as the left shoulder there, like on the XJO. So if you look at the ASX 200, it is up on this sort of left shoulder. So that is a point. Some people might be looking at it as a head and shoulders pattern here, which potentially it's not a pattern that I look at a lot, but it is a level to be cautious of here. So I'm just mindful. Okay, if this is a head and shoulders, it does pull back. How much risk have I got on the table? Can I, if I knock that out, do I live to fight again another day? So, for me, I'll just, if I do get knocked out here, if everything gets knocked out here in the next couple of days and that market sort of came off, then all I've done is just give away my corporate travel profit. So I thought, okay, that's all right. I'll be holding cash and we start again, and maybe the opportunity will set up here. I still like my trades that I'm in, but I'm not going to take them off here. I've accepted the risk, and I'll go from there. So I've been listening to a lot of trend trading podcasts this week. Sort of Michael Cavell, who wrote the Turtle Traders, and interviewing sort of actually listened to an interview with Jerry Parker this morning, who's the most successful of all the total traders. Currently, I don't know how many billions he's worth today, but yeah, they're just process orientated. So these guys following trends, so they'll it's not for them to sort of try and get their ego or their opinion too grounded or too solid. So you have to accept that you are going to be wrong in this game. And as we said at the start, there's no shame in being wrong. The only shame is in staying wrong. I'll leave it there for the day, Chris.
That's a good wrap, bringing it back to a circle point. And you have talked about your portfolio, so we'll put a link on the right-hand side there to show Gary's Tuesday videos where he talks about his portfolio. And also on the right, some of the trading strategies more detail. On the left is Gary's Twitter handle if you'd like to follow him there.